Welcome everybody. Today's video we'll be talking about the difference between Warncliffe blades and Sheepsfoot blades. Where I draw the definitions. I know you go to a knife store and you look at the knives online and they've got, oh, this is the Warncliffe, this is modified drop point. It's complicated. It's a mess. So this video we're talking just about this, a Warncliffe, what I consider a Warncliffe blade, and just about this, what I consider a Sheepsfoot blade. Okay, so let's get into it. I think the first big thing that most people can agree on is the edge of the blade must be straight or nearly so. No curving up like this knife here, like a Benchmade bug out. If a knife has this much belly to it, belly being the curve of the sharpened edge, then whatever drop the back has no longer classifies it as Sheepsfoot or Warncliffe. The blades must be very straight, if not absolutely straight. So, starting off with the Sheepsfoot, this is the QSP Penguin. Great blade, wonderful budget blade for $30-some. Best knife I've ever had, honestly. And I haven't had the fancy stuff. I'm just the average guy buying the average stuff. What we have here is, it's curved a little bit, but if we go from end point to point, we have a slightly steeper than, if not exactly, 45-degree angle. And I think that is a good starting point, because I think the difference between that and a Wharncliffe is, if I can line this up on camera here, is no matter where the blade drops, as long as that last bit is under 45 degrees, I think the blade should be called a Warncliffe, no matter how far back it goes. This knife is a great example because that curve comes all the way back to here, very far back on the blade. The Spyderco PM2 Warncliffe, that's a great example. That drops way in the back, heading towards the tip. Whereas this, the knife is mostly straight out all the way with just this little bit hacked off at the end. To me, a Warncliffe should start tipping farther at the back, but that's a personal preference. We're going to go with just that last little bit of blade where you actually get the distance on the tapering and angles. So, my main definition of where I draw the line between Sheepsfoot and Wharncliffe. A Wharncliffe is a knife where the blade edge is straight. Both knives are straight. There's a little bit of belly here, but it's very minor. It's nearly straight. We'll go with it. I consider the degrees at the tip, if it is shallower than 45 degrees, going on base 90 degrees here, shallower than 45, it is a Wharncliffe. If it is 45 or steeper, then I consider that a Sheepsfoot. That's just where I like to draw the line. Personal preference to me, if it was that steep but it started dropping back here and then kind of like right there at the end, I would like to consider that a Warncliffe personally, but we got to have some ground rules here for the knife companies that are labeling these as modified drop point, Sheepsfoot, warnies, yada yada yada. We gotta have some rules here, people. It's getting crazy out there. There's too many blade shapes to really give an accurate name for, so we just got to generalize it by saying like Warncliffe, Sheepsfoot, Spay blade. Not Beyblade, Spay blade. But yeah, that is where I like to draw the line. And as you can see here, if I line this up, that's almost like a 30-degree taper following these lines. Like that's pretty steep. That's very pokey, very sharp. Great knife. This is the SOG Power Pint. This is the QSP Penguin. Both great budget tools, and if you have both of these in your pocket, you've got a nearly complete EDC for like under $70, $80 there, give or take, depending on where you find these. Less than $100, you've got yourself quality gear that lasts a lifetime. I've been using this for 2 years. It's held up wonderfully. This for 8 months now, steady use, near daily carry. This thing is wonderful. But yeah, I've been looking online, and I've been looking at these knife stores, and they're like, oh, this is that. And it's like, no, it's not. And the Sog Power Pint, ignoring the fact that it's a serrated blade, has a sheep's foot and a Warncliffe. And you can see the considerable difference between the two. You see the sheep's foot, as I'm calling it, stays straight most of the way out, mostly parallel, the spine of the blade to the edge of the blade, mostly parallel to the end, and then a drop. Whereas the Warncliffe, way early on, starts dropping and then picks up a little bit there at the end. I think that is a very good definition between the two, and I think more knife companies need to kind of use that as they're drawing the line. So, thank you for listening to me ramble. This isn't my best video. It's been a while since I made one. I've been busy lately. Hope to be getting back into it. So, thank you for listening to me ramble and rant. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. I try to put some new videos up when I can. I try to make them entertaining, which I'm kind of feeling on that. But most of all, informational. I try to cover the things that I don't think most others are covering when they talk about certain products. And I do cover a lot of the things that they do cover, because they need to be covered. But there are some tools, like the Power Pint's been getting a lot of hate in the EDC community lately. I don't think it deserves it. I think it's a great tool. But that's my preference. Your preference is all your own. That's the way life is. Like, just there's if you don't like something, just look around. There's got to be something else that you like. That's the wonderful thing about the EDC community. If this knife doesn't turn you on, something else will. It's out there. If whatever your tastes are, there's something out there that will fit it. So, thank you for listening. I hope to see you all in the next video. And until then, a farewell.